Have you ever wondered why suffering exists? Why does it feel so inherent to our human experience? In the grand tapestry of existence, suffering seems to be a universal thread woven into every life, regardless of circumstance. It transcends boundaries of wealth, health, and status, making its presence known in the hearts of every human being. Yet, what if I told you that suffering is not an external force that befalls us, but rather an internal one, shaped and molded by our own perceptions of reality? Suffering, in its essence, is not born from the events that occur in our lives, but from the interpretations we attach to them. It is the result of a dance between our minds and the world around us, a dance that is often out of sync. The world presents us with situations, and our minds, in turn, colour them with shades of joy, sorrow, fear, and love. The colours we choose, consciously or not, create our emotional landscape, our personal world of suffering or peace. Imagine two individuals sharing an identical experience, perhaps watching a sunset. One person might see the breathtaking beauty of nature, feeling a deep sense of peace and awe. The other, however, might see the same sunset, but be consumed by feelings of loneliness or sadness, perhaps reminded of a lost loved one or a time when life seemed brighter. The external reality is the same, the sunset has not changed, but the internal realities, the perceptions, are worlds apart. This isn't to say that external circumstances do not affect us. They do, and often profoundly so. However, it is our internal lens, our unique way of interpreting these circumstances, that ultimately shapes our experience of suffering. This lens is formed by our past experiences, our fears, our hopes, and our assumptions about the world. It is the invisible filter through which we view everything, and it is this filter that can turn a sunset into a source of joy or a trigger of pain. So, it might not be the world causing our suffering, but how we perceive it. Through understanding this, we open the door to a transformative approach to ending suffering. Not by changing the world around us, but by changing the world within us. Picture this, a lens inside you, filtering and distorting your reality. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? Let us delve deeper into this concept of the internal lens. Imagine an invisible glass structure, nestled deep within your psyche. This is not a physical entity, but rather a mental construct, a psychological mechanism that shapes your perception of the world. It's like a pair of glasses you didn't realize you were wearing. This lens is not a static, unchanging entity. Instead, it is dynamic, continuously shaped and reshaped by our experiences, our memories, our fears, and our assumptions. Every event we live through, every fear we harbour, every assumption we hold dear, all contribute to the formation of this internal lens. But how does this lens affect our interpretation of reality? The lens acts as a filter, determining what information reaches our conscious awareness and what gets discarded. It decides what feels threatening, what feels meaningful, what feels painful. It tints our reality with our past experiences, our prejudices, our hopes, and our fears. Imagine standing in a vast landscape, a beautiful panorama unfolding before your eyes. But instead of seeing the scene directly, you're looking at it through a coloured glass. The glass changes the colours, the shapes, the textures of the landscape. It adds its own hues, its own distortions. That is what our internal lens does to our perception of reality. Two people may stand in the same spot, looking at the same landscape, but their internal lenses, shaped by their unique experiences, fears, and assumptions, will paint two very different pictures. The landscape remains the same, but their interpretations of it are worlds apart. And so, we come to understand that our suffering arises not from reality itself, but from this internal lens. The lens through which we view the world shapes our reality, and ultimately our suffering. So, the question we must ask ourselves is, how can we change the lens? How can we shift our perspective to end our suffering? But that, dear friends, is a discussion for another time. The lens through which we view the world shapes our reality and ultimately our suffering. Our minds are survivalists, not truth seekers. They create narratives to protect us, even if it means distorting reality. This is a fundamental truth we must understand. The psyche is a master storyteller, spinning tales that confirm its own narratives. It's akin to a detective who, rather than gathering evidence and then forming a conclusion, decides on the conclusion first and then selectively picks out evidence to support it. Consider a simple example. If you believe you are unlovable, your psyche will highlight every instance of rejection, every harsh word, every failed relationship, and use these as evidence to confirm your belief. Conversely, it will ignore or downplay instances of love and acceptance because they do not fit the narrative. This is a self-perpetuating cycle, a self-fulfilling prophecy, fueled by the psyche's insistence on confirming its own narratives. But why does the psyche do this? It's not out of malice. Rather, it's a survival mechanism. The mind is designed to keep us safe, to help us navigate the world. It creates these narratives as a means of making sense of our experiences, giving us a framework to operate within. The trouble arises when these narratives, rather than serving as helpful guides, become rigid structures that constrain us, that distort our perception of reality. We become trapped, not by external chains, but by the internal chains of our own making. We suffer, not because of what is happening around us, but because of how we interpret and respond to it. And so, we find ourselves locked in a prison of our own design, a prison built from the bricks of our own beliefs and perceptions. And yet this is not a life sentence. We are not doomed to remain trapped in this prison. We have the key to our own freedom. But to use it, we must first recognize the nature of our imprisonment. We must understand that it is not the world that needs to change, but our relationship with it. We must realize that the narratives we hold so dear are not absolute truths, but constructs of our own making. Our minds, in their quest for survival, trap us in our own suffering. But by recognizing this, we can begin to break free, to rewrite our narratives, to reclaim our freedom. Ever experienced a moment of deep laughter or complete absorption in a task? These are moments of freedom, where the internal lens steps aside. In these moments, we're not trying to change our circumstances. We're not fighting against reality. We're simply being. We're fully present, fully engaged, and fully alive. In these instances, we're not viewing life through the distorted lens of our past experiences, fears, or assumptions. We're connecting with life directly, as it is, without interference. Such moments often occur when we're so absorbed in what we're doing that we lose track of time. Maybe it's when we're creating art or music, when we're lost in the beauty of nature, or when we're sharing a hearty laugh with a loved one. In these moments, we're not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. We're just here now, completely in the present moment. These moments of freedom are not rare or elusive. They're already here, woven into the fabric of our everyday lives. But often, we overlook them. We're so caught up in our narratives, our stories, our fears, and our desires, that we miss these precious moments of freedom that are right under our noses. We might think that these moments of freedom are just distractions from our real life, but it's actually the other way around. Our real life is this moment right here, right now. The stories we tell ourselves, the fears we harbour, the desires we chase. These are the distractions. And so we're invited to shift our perspective. Instead of viewing these moments of freedom as rare or elusive, we can recognize them as our natural state. Instead of chasing after freedom, we can realize that it's already here, within us, waiting to be noticed. This doesn't mean that we deny or suppress our thoughts and emotions. Instead, we learn to see them for what they are, just thoughts and emotions, not reality. We learn to observe them without getting caught up in them. We learn to be present with whatever is happening, without needing it to be different. Freedom, then, is not a rare treasure, but a forgotten reality. It's not something we need to seek out or earn, it's something we simply need to remember. It's something we reconnect with moment by choosing to be fully present, fully engaged, and fully alive. What if I told you that suffering ends not by changing life's circumstances, but by changing your relationship with your inner lens? Yes, it sounds unconventional, almost rebellious, but it's a transformative perspective that has the potential to end the cycle of psychological suffering. Consider this. You're not the sum of your experiences, your memories, or your fears. You're not the construct of assumptions and emotional charges that have accumulated over time. You are the awareness that exists behind all these experiences. You are the observer, the consciousness that perceives and acknowledges these experiences without being defined by them. When you shift your perception from identifying with the inner lens to recognizing the awareness behind it, you begin to dissolve unnecessary psychological pain. You're no longer confined to the narratives your mind has created for survival. You're not bound by the beliefs that have distorted your direct experience of life. This shift doesn't mean that challenges and hardships won't arise. They're an integral part of life's rich tapestry, but it does mean that you can engage with them in a more vivid, intimate, and free manner. You can see them for what they are, experiences to be lived and learned from, not chains that bind you. Imagine the liberation that comes from not being at the mercy of your thoughts and emotional patterns. Imagine the freedom that comes from not having to fix life, but instead simply experiencing it in its raw, unfiltered form. This is not a distant dream or a rare moment of enlightenment. It's a reality that's often overlooked, misunderstood as distractions rather than life without distortion. This shift in perception is not about achieving anything. It's not about reaching a destination or attaining a state of perfection. It's about remembering what has always been present within you, the observer, the consciousness that exists behind all experiences. It's about recognizing this awareness and cultivating a relationship with it. So, let's end where we began. Awakening is not an achievement, but a remembering of what has always been present, the observer within.